James winced as the alien scanner's blue light traced down his spine, the device humming with an intensity that made his teeth ache. Beside him, Liza stood rigid in the detention chamber, her jaw clenched as she watched the Zephyrian technicians, four eyes widen in what could only be described as shock. Impossible, the creature chittered, its translucent wings fluttering anxiously. The scanner must be malfunctioning. Commander Vexth, a towering figure whose crystalline exoskeleton gleamed under the chamber's harsh lights, stepped forward. Run it again, Technician Kilra. These humans must be processed before we can determine their fate. James exchanged a glance with Liza. They'd been captured 3 days ago while exploring the outer rim of Kepler 442b, their research vessel disabled by what they thought was a routine Zephyrian patrol. Now standing in the bowels of a massive dreadnought, they were beginning to understand this was anything but routine. The scanner whirred to life again, its beam more focused this time. As it reached the base of James's skull, the device let out a sharp, discordant tone that sent every Zephyrian in the room into a frenzy of clicking and wing buzzing. Marked by the fall of Civilization X, the scanner announced in mechanical tones. Genetic sequence carries the Omega Protocol. Subject designated as Class 7 extinction survivor. Liza stepped forward despite the guard's warnings. What the hell does that mean? Commander Vexth's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation that James had learned to recognize during their captivity. It means, human, that your companion carries genetic markers that should not exist. The Omega Protocol was implemented by Civilization X over 50,000 years ago, just before their empire collapsed. We've never heard of Civilization X, James said, though something cold was forming in the pit of his stomach. We're explorers from Earth. We've only been spacefaring for 200 years, Vexth interrupted. Yes, we know. Your species is laughably young by galactic standards, which makes this reading impossible. The commander turned to face them both, his compound eyes reflecting the chamber's lights like fractured diamonds. Unless... The silence stretched between them, heavy with implication. Technician Kilra spoke up, her voice trembling. Commander, if the humans truly carry these markers, then the legends about the inheritors might be true. The stories our ancestors whispered about, the species that would rise from the ashes of the Great Collapse. Liza felt James tense beside her. What stories? Commander Vexth began pacing, his massive form moving with surprising grace. 50 millennia ago, the galaxy was dominated by a coalition of species we know only as Civilization X. They were builders, creators, shapers of worlds. They constructed the great hyperspace networks that we still use today, established the galactic trade routes, and maintained peace across 1,000 sectors. And then they vanished, James said quietly. Not vanished, destroyed. Vexth's voice carried a weight of ancient sorrow. They faced something from beyond the galactic rim, entities that consumed not just matter and energy, but the very concept of existence itself. The Devourers. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Civilization X fought for 3 centuries before they realized the truth. They couldn't win, so they implemented the Omega Protocol. They seeded the galaxy with genetic markers, embedding them in the DNA of primitive species on thousands of worlds, a final insurance policy. Liza's voice was barely a whisper. Insurance for what? For the day the Devourers would return. Vexth turned to stare directly at James. The markers weren't just random genetic code. They were instructions, blueprints, the knowledge of how to fight the unfightable, encoded in the very essence of those who would inherit the galaxy. James felt the world spinning around him. Memories that weren't his own flickered at the edge of consciousness. Vast battles fought in the vacuum of space. Weapons that tore reality itself. The dying screams of civilizations. That's impossible, he managed. We're just humans. We barely made it off our own planet. Technician Kilra's scanner beeped again, and she looked up with something like reverence. Commander, I'm detecting similar markers in the female, though less pronounced in Sir. She paused, her mandibles clicking nervously. Long-range sensors are picking up something at the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy. Something moving toward us. The implications hit them all simultaneously. The Devourers are returning, Vexith said grimly. After 50,000 years, they're coming back to finish what they started. James looked at Liza, seeing his own terror reflected in her eyes. But beneath the fear, something else was stirring, a sense of purpose that felt older than humanity itself. "What do we need to do?" he asked. Commander Vexith straightened to his full height. "First, we need to get you back to Earth. If you carry the Omega Protocol, then others of your species might as well. We need to activate every marker we can find." "And then?" The Zephyrian commander's compound eyes glittered with something that might have been hope. "Then we prepare for the greatest war the galaxy has ever seen. Because if the legends are true, humanity isn't just another primitive species that stumbled into space." He paused, his voice carrying the weight of prophecy. "You're the weapon Civilization X built to save us all." As alarms began blaring throughout the ship, James felt the first stirrings of memories that weren't his own. Knowledge of technologies, beyond imagination, strategies for battles yet to come, and the unshakable conviction that humanity's true test was just beginning. The scanner had revealed more than genetic markers. It had revealed their destiny.